To create an assignment in Infinite Campus, you have one of two ways that you can do this. Option 1, if this is an assignment that you're actually doing within Schoology, create the assignment in Schoology and everything will sync to Campus. So if you're working in Schoology and you make the assignment there, do nothing to Campus, things will come over. Option 2, maybe you have something that you're doing in your class that really has nothing to do with Schoology. Maybe it's an in-class timed writing. Maybe it's some sort of an activity. Maybe it's just keeping track of something like handing in a syllabus or a permission slip for a project or a movie or something like that. In that case, you can just create it simply within Infinite Campus. In order to create that assignment, you'll click on the button that says Add. And what you'll do then is you'll title your assignment, so I can call it as example. I could choose to make it visible to the class if I want. So maybe I want to have it unpublished. I could choose to have a start or end date. And then if I move on down to the next place, I can choose whether or not I want this to be calculated. If it's an in-class activity that's relevant to the learning, I'd like to have that included. If it's something like just handing in a piece of paper that was related to a permission slip, I don't necessarily want that to be calculated into a student's grade, so I could uncheck it. Every assignment does need to have some sort of an abbreviation, so try to make it something simple that if you look at it, you know what it is. You would then be able to choose your category. Maybe this is listening and speaking. You would put in a point value, so maybe I want to make this a 5-point assignment. I could choose to use an assignment marks. So in a previous screencast, talked about a plus or a minus or a yes or no. If I do that, then I can choose whichever mark system I want. Maybe I want to do a yes and no. And if I'd like to, I could also copy this over to other sections too. So maybe I have a class period 1 and a class period 3. I could copy it over to period 3 and everything's set. Once I've made the assignment, it's going to be saved. I can go ahead and I can exit out of this. And I can go ahead and find that assignment now over in the gradebook. Since I was using a Y or N, what I can do now is just simply go through and type in a Y or N, and it will go ahead and give me a score value for that assignment. What I can also do is if I want to score an assignment, I can expand it and click on this little chevron. And what I could choose to do is I could choose to fill in scores and comments. So maybe I've been waiting all week for a movie permission slip for an R-rated film. I have everything sitting. I know exactly who's handed it in, who hasn't. What I could choose to do then is go through and maybe there's like a couple people who had a no. Well, I could type those in. Or I can make everyone a yes and select any student who was present and empty, or any box that was empty. This will auto-fill everything. It saves me a lot of time and trouble. If I'd like to, I could also put in some comments. Sent a new copy home. What will happen is with these comments, you can give some feedback, and this will appear instantly once you've saved the assignment. And parents would be able to see this, students would be able to see this. So this idea of a comment within a gradebook assignment can be a very helpful thing. Personally, I use this a lot when something was resubmitted. Maybe I had a student who on March 3rd, I regraded the assignment. I could say it's all good. Maybe I had a student who on March 1st handed something in again. I regraded, still needs whatever it might be. The idea here now is I can preempt any questions that a parent might have by just putting some comments in. I could acknowledge that I got something. I could acknowledge that it was regraded. I could acknowledge that everything's good. I could also acknowledge that while it was regraded, it's still problematic and have it built in. So a very, very helpful thing to use if you are looking to give feedback and maybe cut down on phone calls and emails because you can communicate everything proactively within Infinite Campus. If I like it, I can go ahead and hit save and everything will keep. The other thing that's really cool here too is you're going to be noticing a bunch of different symbols, or letters rather. Maybe you have an assignment that was late and the kid wants to hand it in, a student wants to hand it in, but you just haven't gotten to it yet. Many times from a parent is the student said they handed it in, it didn't get graded, the student claims that everything's great, maybe blames the teacher for it. Maybe the parent doesn't trust the student. What you can do as a teacher is you can click on T, which means turned in. What that would mean then is, look, I did receive it. I have not graded it, but yes, the student did hand in that work. It's sitting on my desk. Again, a nice way to communicate something. You can also choose to make an assignment missing by using the M. What a missing will do is it'll give a score of a 0, but it will put a flag in as M for missing. And this will give a standalone thing for a teacher or a parent or a student of what work has not been handed in. And this could also help with getting things brought back together. You could also choose to exempt a student from an assignment. So maybe a student had just moved to your school, and last week there was an assignment. There was no way in the world the student could have done it or could make it up. You could choose to exempt a student from that assignment, and then that way that assignment will not help nor harm the student grade because it's just a non-factor. So these codes can be very helpful as well for you to do and see. If you'd like to go back to another assignment, you can do that too, and you can overwrite whatever it might be. Maybe a student had a missing assignment, and now the student got an 8 on a redo. I can remove the flag. I can also put in a quick comment if I want to help just communicate what went on, and then I can hit save. So the idea of using these different types of flags are very helpful for proactive communication, particularly with missing, turned in but not graded yet, or exempt. By being able to put in comments, maybe you want to date stamp a retake or a redo, just so that way there's an acknowledgement and everyone's on the same page a couple weeks later. That could also help you out here too. And if you click on the chevron to expand the assignment and click on the fill scores and comments, you can block out a very common grade if that's the case. So those are things that can save you some time and trouble as you're doing your day-to-day maintenance of your gradebooks.